everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be painting this spread in my sketchbook. In not my last video, but the video before that, I had talked about wanting to work on how I was drawing people and just kind of get more skilled and practice drawing people more. So that's what this spread is, just some sketches I had done of these two different girls. So as always, I just start with putting down the skin color, and then I decided to go ahead and do all of the shading again with red, like I did on the last girl I painted on my channel, the one that was like a Valentine's Day themed spread, a belated Valentine's Day themed spread. And I'm still super happy with how I did that. I do end up going in later with also some teal and putting some teal in a couple different spots. I know there's like some method to like using greens and yellows and blues and pinks and reds to like blend them all together to get a really beautiful looking skin. I don't know what the word I want is, like complexion, but I don't know how to do that yet, and so this is kind of like the first step of me learning that is just by using the red. I was thinking I want to get better at painting like that as well. I don't even know if, I'm sure you probably can do that with watercolor. I've never seen anyone do that with watercolor though. I've only seen people do that with like gouache or acrylic paints. But anyway, that's a painting exercise for down the road. So this girl, I actually drew this second. I drew the girl on the right side of the spread first and then drew this girl. I didn't like how she looked as much just in her sketch form. Once I have her painted, I like her a lot more. So I, as I have been doing for so many of my paintings lately, used my Vintage Pastels palette, and then I wanted to paint her hair red real quick here. I was impatient and was trying to add the darker tones of red before the overall base color had dried, and then it smudged, and then I had to try and like mop it up real quick with a tissue, and then I also smudged some of the paint there as well because I was being impatient and trying to paint quicker than I could. But also there you see me go in with some of the teal. But anyway, I wanted to paint her hair red because I was kind of going off of Ariel's color palette. So that's why she has a purple dress and then the red hair and blue eyes. But I didn't want to use the like pure red tone that they gave me in my Winsor & Newton palette. It was just a little bit too harsh. I did use that color like purely as it is for those darker tones in her hair, but for the overall base color I decided to take that red and mix it with some mauve from my Vintage Pastels palette, and then that made that much more like soft red, pink toned red that I ended up being really happy with. And then while I was trying to wait for everything else on the page to dry, I was like, I'm gonna paint these little just added space fillers, which were just very basic, very simple, very straightforward. This painting was very straightforward. I always get so nervous though painting people, like painting the eyes or painting the eyelashes especially makes me super nervous. Painting the lips or like the curve of the nose bridge, I'm always so nervous and a little shaky. I don't always record them because I do tend to get a little bit shaky when I'm filming them, because then I'm nervous like what if I mess up on camera, and then I'm also nervous like what if I mess up because then I might have ruined the painting and I'm not sure if I can fix it. But thankfully I did not mess up on too much anyway on either one of them, outside of me smudging the paint because I was being impatient. So then I went in with my Posca pen. One thing I do love about my Posca pen, speaking of potentially messing up and not being sure if you can fix it, something I love about my Posca pen, and a big reason I will always recommend these if you're somebody who's looking for something to use as a highlight, is that you can get a wet, like clean wet brush and just lightly go over it, and it will pull up the white paint without ruining the painting underneath it. So I highly recommend a Posca pen if you are looking for something to use as a highlight. They can be a little expensive sometimes, but I think they're well worth the money. And I wanted to highlight, I did draw one hand on this spread. Still working on practicing those. I did this one without a reference. I didn't have access to reference material when I was sketching this out, but that's why her other hand is in her pocket, because I didn't have reference or access to reference material. But I did try to draw that other hand, and it isn't the best hand I've ever drawn, but it doesn't look terrible, and I'm glad I at least tried and was trying to improve my skill level. That's usually the goal whenever I'm painting or sketching. I just always want to be working on improving and getting better at my skill. And then on her, I wanted to also do these where I kind of left some negative space or like white blank spaces in both their hair and on their clothing, just to really create that like pretty watercolor effects that I see people do that I think looks really pretty. And I ended up doing that and adding in some yellow and some purple and I think some blue as well on this girl's shirt. I still like her best out of the two. Like I said, I do like the left side of the spread. After she got painted, I liked her a lot more. But I do definitely like the right side of the spread. This girl, I like the way she turned out. Definitely the best. And then here I am using some purple as well for shading. I really just liked adding some more color, and it just made the painting, I feel like, stand out a little bit more. Now, painting her hair, this is where things did kind of start to go south on this painting. I don't know, I just didn't work in the proper, like, top to bottom way that works well with watercolor, so you don't, like, it doesn't get real muddy and patchy. So as you can see, her hair did get quite patchy, actually. I tried to go over it and cover it up in a little bit here. I'll try and go over it when I'm lining it. I just tried to add some darker tones in some spots, so that way you wouldn't see how patchy it was, but you definitely still can see how patchy it is. I feel like it kind of works because her hair is meant to be wavy, like she had curled it, so it's okay, because like there would have been curl clumps and it wouldn't look quite as like smooth. It looks like lived in curls more, so that's what I'm telling myself to make myself not feel so like disappointed. It's the one thing I did kind of mess up on this painting. I also want to get better at doing different poses. So again, I didn't have access to any references when I drew her, but I was trying to at least draw her like holding something or something just a little bit more visually interesting. And then I'm just painting all those little details, like in my head, like the little claw clip and the bow and the cat charm were just like things she had in her purse or things she was thinking about, really was all that I was kind of I just wanted some more space fillers to add interest to the page. Oh my gosh, drawing the pupils too are like makes me so nervous. I'm usually so shaky. Doing highlights can make me nervous too, but like I said, because the Posca pen, you can like pick some up if you put it where you don't like it with just a clean wet brush. I'm a little less nervous about doing it. And this is how it turned out. Let me know what you think of this in the comments down below. Do you like this style or do you prefer my old style? I don't want to lose my skill at stylized art. That's something I really worked hard to get, and I want to make sure I'm still making stylized art. But I'll see you in the next one. Remember to be kind and stay cozy.